The movie opens with Theo Cooper, an astronaut, waking up in jail after being arrested for public intoxication and disorderly conduct the previous night. Upon his release, his supervisor, Walter Anderson, informs Theo that the board would have discharged him if they hadn't already found a replacement for their next mission. Theo is unable to return home to clean up because Walter immediately takes him to a press conference. During the press conference, Walter informs journalists that the mission is an experiment to test the psychological effects of deep space travel. Kepler, the company behind the operation, aims to understand how astronauts will react to unforeseen challenges during simulated space travel. The astronauts will be confined to an underground ship to enhance the realism of the simulation. When asked about concerns, Dr. Emily McTeer highlights the risk of astronauts perceiving reality differently due to isolation. Walter introduces Cole Dvorak, an engineer responsible for creating weekly videos to update the public, and Bug Kislowski, who will conduct scientific experiments on the ship's life systems throughout the mission. When a reporter asks Theo, the mission's captain, if he'd like to comment on the simulation, he declines due to a hangover and a recent breakup. Walter concludes the press conference, hinting at unexpected challenges ahead. Later, Walter privately reminds Emily of their agreement. Before the astronauts descend underground, Walter warns that quitting early will end their careers. As they enter the ship, Theo gazes at the surroundings one last time. After donning spacesuits, they perform a systems check. During the countdown, the computer alerts them about an attached payload. Theo decides to adjust the ship's trajectory to prevent disintegration. After adjusting the ship, the payload detaches. Walter congratulates the team and reveals gifts in their bunkers. Bug finds a notebook, Cole gets adult magazines, Emily receives origami papers, and Theo gets playing cards. Later, during a mental health checkup, Theo admits to feeling depressed, angry, and confused. When Emily probes further, Theo reveals his recent heartbreak. The woman he wanted to marry turned him down without explanation. Their situation remains complicated. During dinner preparations, Emily gets ready to administer vaccines to the team. Cole objects, but Emily warns that they are more vulnerable to viruses due to proximity. Cole reluctantly agrees after being teased by Theo and Bug. The first week goes smoothly, but on day 26, an explosion and a powerful earthquake startle the crew. Emily speculates that it's part of the simulation and suggests they are passing through an asteroid belt. Bug points out that the significant asteroid belt is located beyond Mars. The team tries contacting Mission Control, but receives no response. Shortly after, the computer alerts them that the ship is recalibrating its solar power storage and urges the team to conserve power. A few days later, Emily tries to contact Walter without consulting the team. As more time passes, Cole becomes increasingly irritable. After 200 days, Emily administers vaccines to the team again. When Cole uploads his videos to the computer, he has a hallucination and sees a message suggesting that Emily is poisoning him. On day 218, Bug captures a mouse in his lab and shows it to the team. Cole insists that Bug should get rid of it due to hygiene concerns, but Bug argues that the mouse is part of the crew. Cole takes the mouse from Bug and steps on it. A heated argument ensues between Cole and Bug, and Theo tries to intervene, but Cole directs his anger towards Theo and pushes him against the wall. The two men engage in a physical altercation until Emily intervenes. Later, when Cole checks himself for injuries in his room, he has a hallucination and sees blood dripping from his nose and face. Cole, realizing his hallucination was when he flirts with Emily, she rejects him, prompting an immediate apology. Later, while uploading videos online, Cole experiences another hallucination. They hate you. Seeing his childhood photo, he vents frustration by smashing the keyboard. During Bug's psychological evaluation, Emily brings up his guilt over leaving his son, Sam. Bug expresses his hope to see Sam before he departs. Emily suggests writing a letter to Sam, but Bug dislikes the idea of writing something that will never reach his son. With only 35 days remaining, Bug has become isolated from the crew, prompting Emily to persuade him to leave his room. Bug spends most of his time drawing a maze on his room walls. His solitude leads to hallucinations of his son, and Bug Bug sees Sam crawling through the maze. Intrigued, Bug follows him to the other side, where he finds Sam playing on a swing. Bug informs Sam that he made it to the final stage of the astronaut selection process. When Sam asks how long Bug will be gone, he explains that it will be a lengthy absence. Suddenly, Sam vanishes from the swing, and Bug finds himself back in his room. On day 373, the crew hears a persistent banging noise from above. Concerned, but Theo reminds them to follow protocols and ignore the noise. Cole wakes up one night, hearing a noise outside his room. Investigating, he encounters a hideous man in the kitchen. Cole directs Theo to investigate, and the crew finds the intruder trying to escape through a vent. The man collapses, and they bring him to the infirmary. Meanwhile, Bug collapses too, and Emily feels drowsy. Later, the computer warns of critical oxygen levels. Theo alerts the crew, but Emily remains in her room. Theo breaks down the door and discovers that Emily is not breathing. He performs CPR, and Emily eventually regains consciousness. Theo rushes to the infirmary to check on the intruder, but finds no one there. Shortly after, Cole reveals that the breach caused the ship's air to mix with the outside air. However, Theo argues that potential hallucinations and memory loss as oxygen levels decrease. Theo suggests leaving the ship due to Emily's near-death experience, but Cole believes it's still part of the simulation and objects. Their disagreement escalates, leading Bug to knock Cole unconscious. Eventually, Theo and Bug venture outside through a vent and discover a dark and dusty environment, instead of the expected green grass and lush trees. Before returning to the ship, Theo instructs Bug to collect a dust sample for analysis. When they share their findings with the others, Cole speculates that Mission Control may have placed the ship inside a giant dome. Soon after, Bug reports that the dust samples contain armicolite, a substance not supposed to exist on Earth. Theo orders the crew to don their spacesuits for further investigation. As they walk outside, Cole speculates that the ongoing experiment involved psychotropic shots, heightened suggestion, and paranoia. After an hour, they reach an empty house. Inside, Theo discovers a picture of the intruder and his family. Emily finds a map with crossed-out locations, except for a town called Tranquility. The team decides to follow the map, hoping someone there can explain the situation. Upon arrival, they remove their helmets and find breathable air. Outside a diner, they encounter a man. Theo questions him about civilization, but the man remains silent, inviting them inside. Upon entering, Zell, the man, offers them food. Cole recognizes other customers, the press conference reporters, and Miss February from the magazines Walter gave him. Zell inquires about other survivors. Zell reveals that a black object in the sky pulled him up with a dust cloud, suggesting they might be the last survivors. Cole notices a hearing aid in Zell's ear, so Cole heads to the bar, and Theo insists they stay together. Following a drink with the team, Cole leaves the table and begins flirting with a woman at the bar. Some patrons obstruct the view, preventing the astronauts from noticing that Cole and the woman have vanished. The crew decides to wait for Cole's return, but after several hours pass with no sign of him, they return to the diner to rest. Theo suggests that someone should stay awake and keep watch, so Bug volunteers for the first shift. As Theo and Emily fall asleep, Bug enters the bathroom and experiences a hallucination where he believes he's in the hospital visiting his son, Sam. When he inquires about Sam's condition, the doctor sadly shakes his head. Bug lets out a scream upon realizing that Sam is deceased. Exiting the bathroom, Bug encounters Sam in the hallway, but the boy suddenly runs away. Bug attempts to chase after him, but instead runs into Zell. When Emily and Theo awaken, they inquire with Zell about the whereabouts of Cole and her. As they step outside, a dust storm engulfs them, prompting them to seek shelter until it subsides. However, the darkness causes them to become separated. Theo finds himself in the diner's kitchen, where he discovers a man confined in a small cage, pleading for assistance. Theo releases the man, but accidentally gets stabbed in the stomach by a woman carrying a knife as he rushes out of the kitchen. Injured, Theo stumbles outside and encounters Emily, who is being pursued by peculiar townspeople. Emily and Theo hurriedly return to the bar to hide and tend to Theo's wounds. The bartender unexpectedly returns and spots them, prompting them to flee back to their ship before he can alert others. They eventually arrive at the previously spotted house and decide to stop there to tend to Theo's wound and rest. While Emily attempts to sleep, Theo inquires about what Walter had said to her before they entered the ship. Emily admits that Walter reminded her of their agreement to end their relationship. She discloses that Walter instructed her to break up with Theo to test if they could still fulfill their duties despite the breakup. Theo suggests that they could have pretended to break up, but Emily believes that Walter would have known the truth as he closely monitors them. Theo argues that he would have informed Emily if Walter had approached him. After some time passes, Emily wakes Theo up and they decide to return to the ship. Upon reaching the ship, as Theo closes the hatch, he notices 3 men nearby, prompting him to quickly alert Emily. Theo grabs a fire extinguisher and heads back outside. Zell and the diner chef board the ship to search for the crew. Outside, Theo uses a fire extinguisher on the bartender, knocking him out. Inside, Theo confronts the chef, ultimately strangling him. Armed with the chef's knife, Theo looks for Zell. Zell encounters Emily, but Theo grabs him. Zell breaks free, revealing that Cole and Bug are still in town. Theo and Zell engage in a violent struggle. Zell knocks Theo to the ground and proceeds to repeatedly kick him. Zell then attempts to stab Theo in the chest, but Theo fights back. Emily arrives and stabs Zell in the back, saving Theo. Sadly, just moments after the altercation, Theo succumbs to his injuries and passes away. At that exact moment, the countdown indicating the conclusion of the experiment reaches its end. Shortly after, Walter appears on the screen, congratulating them for completing the simulation. Theo and Emily experiment. As Walter encourages them to venture outside, Theo and Emily hold hands, filled with anticipation for what awaits them. Theo takes a deep breath as he witnesses a beam of light shining down on the ship when the hatch opens.